Friends, welcome to the 23rd session of Legal Empowerment Through Interaction lecture series. We had wonderful sessions earlier. Today, we have a session on the law of adverse possession by Justice Hariprasad. We are privileged to have Justice Ramkumar also with us today. So, over to you, sir, for the presentation.
Thank you, Shyam. Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
Mr. Shyam, Ramkumar sir, and all the participants. I'm going to tell you today something about a very disliked subject called adverse possession. Because people, when you say that your right is adverse possession, they frown upon you as if you have committed a grave crime. So that is the trend recently that we find in the decisions of the Supreme Court, many decisions recently. Till 2019, there is a three-judge bench decision which settled or rather restored the earlier position, right from 57 Supreme Court, that we will deal with in detail. Before that, the inbuilt dislike for this concept called adverse possession can be based on one fact, that adverse possession commences in wrong and is maintained against right. That is the concept. Because it commences in a wrong, trespassing into another man's land. And it is after maturing, because you can't speak of adverse possession without the concept of limitation. They go together, hands in hand, because adverse possession and limitation causes extinction of the right. So adverse possession and limitation together commences in a wrong, and it is maintained against right of a person having ownership. So that is why people are not very happy with this plea. But historically, if you imagine the development of human civilization, or rather the progress of civilization, at one point of time, this earth belonged to no one. As soon as this Homo sapiens developed into a group living, this concept, they were nomadic. They travel from one place to the other, and they were not sticking on to one place. After some time, they started domesticating animals. They started indulging in this agricultural activity. So they settled in one place. So when persons settle in one place, they possess a portion of land, and they exclude others from enjoying that bit of land by claiming some sort of exclusive right over that land. That right gradually matured into the concept called title. So maybe the first trespasser must have acquired a portion of land, and then he retained, and the concept title came in later, and then he assigned, or rather gifted, or by some other means of transfer, the others must have obtained the property. Now that is how this, I think I am clear.
Yes,
So,
yes, very much. Very much.
Okay, that is how the concept of title developed. Now, I just wanted to tell you one thing, that this land, this earth never belonged to anyone at the inception. Gradually started people trespassing upon the land and reducing it to their possession, and you claim ownership, and later you are dispossessed by another person, and he claims adverse possession against you. So this is actually a vicious circle. Nobody is the owner of the land in that way. Then
relative.
It's all relative. Time and space. That's all. Relative with reference to time and space. Then if you read that year 2019 Supreme Court, that I will take you to later for other purposes also, that is three-judge bench recently pronounced by the Supreme Court, year 2019 Supreme Court 3827. That name of the decision is, party name, just 1 minute please. That is Ravinder Kaur Grewal and others versus Manjit Kaur and others. That is AIR 2019 Supreme Court 3827. All the points have been considered, because the original principle in the Privy Council decisions and 57 Supreme Court, which is Lakshmi Reddy. Just 1 minute. Lakshmi Reddy, AIR 57 Supreme Court 314. That is supposed to be a classic authority on this subject. Those principles were deviated by later two-judge benches. Many decisions are there. But ultimately in 2019, the original possession is restored. We will take a journey through these decisions later. So if you read that 2019 Supreme Court decision, there is in opening paragraphs, the history of adverse possession is traced in paragraph 2. Historically, adverse possession is a pretty old concept of law. It is useful but often criticized concept on the ground that it protects and confers rights upon wrongdoers. You may please read that paragraph. That will give you the idea of adverse possession prevailed in various countries at various times, various centuries rather. And learned judges have extracted so many principles there, which will I need not read it because I don't want to consume much time on that. No, so that is the historical background. In every part of this world, this concept of adverse possession was there in one form or other. But since we follow the Commonwealth countries, we follow this British English law principle, we will go to the root of the adverse possession theory in a bit detail that I'll take you to the Perry versus Classwood and other decisions after a short while. Then, before that, it's better that we understand. No, see, adverse possession is a concept where you exclusively possess the land and you assert a right to exclude the entire world. Now, that is adverse possession. That hostility against all the persons in the world is an essential ingredient to constitute an adverse possession. That is settled law, because if you refer to Salmond on jurisprudence, you will find this principle. Then, title. Now, what do you mean by title? Generally, title, you can say it's a bundle of rights. I have title to property means I have all possible options to deal with the property. For example, if I have title to the property, I can create a mortgage, I can create a lease, I can license it out, I can sell half right over the property to someone. So whatever possible in whatever possible manner it can be dealt with, I can do it. That freedom is called absolute title. So, and it is a settled proposition in law that possession is one of the most important ingredient in the concept called title. Because if you imagine the title as a bundle of rights, having so many possibilities to deal with the property, a bundle, well-tied bundle, possession is the most important aspect in that bundle. Now, suppose that possession is taken out, the bundle becomes loose, and you will not have a perfect tied up bundle. So you are lacking something. That is why you call recovery of possession. Recovery of possession to set the clock back, or rather to bring the possession back. Now that is called recovery of possession. So possession is very important, and that right, possessory right, is invaded upon by someone is called, and with a hostile animus is called adverse possession. Regarding the title, if you are so interested, I'll give you some area where you have to look into to understand the principle. Just 1 minute. Yes, in Black, if you go to Black's Law Dictionary, the expression title is defined as the union of all elements as ownership, possession, and custody, constituting the legal right to control and dispose of property, the legal link between a person who owns property and the property itself. Then another concept explained therein is legal evidence of a person's ownership right in property is an instrument such as deed that constitutes such evidence. So that is the definition of title. Then words and phrases. Permanent edition, you will find a definition. A phrase title to a thing denotes an aggregate of interests in the thing of such an extent that if a person who has the title is not under a duty to deal with the interest for the benefit of another person, he is the owner of the thing, because he has a right to exclude all others from any sort of enjoyment. That is called absolute title. And you will find almost the same definition in corpus juris secundum also. So theoretically, title means it's a bundle of rights wherein possession is one of the most important ingredient. If that possession is invaded upon, or rather it is taken out from the owner's this bundle, then your remedy is to seek recovery of possession. And Article 65, which deals with suits relating to recovery of possession based on title, prescribes 12 years for recovery from the date of exclusion from possession. And we are concerned with Article 65 mainly because we intend to deal with suits for recovery of possession based on title. Article 64, I shall just make a passing mention later because that is only a possessory title. We are now concerned with the absolute title. Then, no, see, before that, there is one decision by Supreme Court in 1963, one SCJ, Supreme Court Journal 426. That's a Constitution Bench decision. That the name of the party name is Navratnamal versus State of Rajasthan. Navratnamal versus State of Rajasthan, 1963, 1 SCJ 426. The principle stated therein is that the statutes of limitation are designed to effectuate a beneficent public purpose, namely to prevent the taking away from one what he has for long been permitted to consider as his own, and on the faith of which he plans his life, habits, and expenses. It is also held that the Limitation Act, though a statute of repose and intended for quieting titles, and in that sense looks at the problem from the point of view of the defendant with a view to provide him the security against tail claims, addresses itself the same time as to the position of the plaintiff. So the Supreme Court it is mentioned that this statute of limitation it provides provisions to prevent the taking away of one what he has for long been permitted to consider as his own. So after a long time, after 12 years, you start feeling that you are the owner of the property. And if after 12 years, if you are ejected from the property or thrown out of the property by process of law, that will cause more injustice to the person in occupation than to the benefit of the person claiming this thing. And there are other, for example, there is, if you read UN Mitra on the law of limitation and prescription, that is Tagore Law Lectures, that was 1882 Tagore Law Lecture. There UN Mitra learned author says, the law of limitation is founded on public policy, its aim being to secure the quiet of the community, to suppress fraud and perjury, to quicken diligence, and to prevent oppression. It incorporates principles of great benefit to the community. The statute discourages litigation by burying in one common receptacle all the accumulations of past times which are unexplained and have not, from lapse of time, become inexplicable. Now there is John White is a jurist of old English school. He has been quoted in this with he has been quoted in UN Mitra saying that John White has said that the controversies are limited to a fixed period of time. Why they should be immortal while men are mortal? That is the question. So even if you die, then how can you say that your rights are not dead? So that is why the period of limitation. So anybody having a inbuilt dislike to the law of limitation has to consider these aspects, because it is nobody's interest to have a sword hanging over your head as Damocles sword. Nobody will be knowing. For example, a promissory note suit, the period prescribed is 3 years. Now, if that is not prescribed, the debtor may have sleepless nights even after 15 years or 20 years, because you do not know when this man comes forward with a suit. So law always favors vigilant and diligent. That is the principle behind the Limitation Act. That exactly
law always helps the vigilant.
Yes.
Vigilantibus.
Correct. That maxim, that accept. So that is the purpose of this Limitation Act. So when there is Section 27 in the Limitation Act, whatever be our attitude towards that section, whether it is to your liking or hatred, whatever it is, you are bound to apply the principles in Section 27. Now, Section 27 is the only provision in the Limitation Act which confers a substantive principle. Rather, it is the only provision which confers a substantive right on a party. All other are procedural in nature. I'll just read out section 27. At the determination of the period hereby limited to any person for instituting a suit for possession of any property, his right to such property shall be extinguished. It is very clear in terms that his property right shall be extinguished. Then in one of the Kerala decisions, which I may refer to you later, a learned judge had taken a view that what is extinguished is only a right, it is not title. With great respect, I say it is not the correct principle, because the expression right is synonymous to title here. Because the Limitation Act does not use the expression title, it only says right. Everybody says that Limitation Act, your right is not lost, but remedy alone is lost. That is the principle. But section 27 is an exception to that principle, where even though the expression right alone is used, the expression right used therein is actually synonymous to the expression title. So then the question is, suppose my property is trespassed upon by somebody else for more than 12 years. I did not take any action. I was looking on. No action was taken, and he gets title to the property. I lose it. So the section 27 does not say that I will lose the section 27 only say that I will lose title, but he will. Section 27 only say that I lose title. It does not say that he will get title. There is no mention like that. For that, there is one concept called res nullis. The res nullis principle applies only to chattels. It doesn't apply to immobile properties. Res nullis concept is applicable only in the case of movable property and chattels, and it doesn't apply to immobile properties. So once a right is extinguished, it should get attached to someone else. In other words, an immobile property cannot remain without an owner to claim it. You can't leave immobile property. Either it should belong to individuals, or it should belong to some corporate entities, or it should belong to the state, or it should belong to some charitable trust. There must be an owner. There cannot be a no man land concept in the case of immobile property. So that is a fundamental principle. That is why section 27 is silent about that. If you lose property title, it will go to the other person. It need not be, because an adverse possessor will automatically get title to that property. That is the fundamental principle in 27. Then I have taken you to limit. Then then I'll take you to two important decisions of 19th century and 18th century, probably 19th century. Sorry. One is the first one is actually Perry versus Clissold, 1907 AC 73. That's a Privy Council decision, 1907 AC 73. And the other is Appuhani, that is a Sri Lankan case. Perry versus Clissold is an Australian case. The other one is a Sri Lankan case. Just 1 minute, I'll give you the citation. Korea, C-O-R-E-A, Korea versus Appuhani, A-P-P-U, Korea versus Appuhani, 1912 AC 230. Korea versus Appuhani, 1912 AC 230, and Perry versus Clissold, 1907 AC 73. If you may please refer to Thomas versus Lonepan. Thomas versus Lonepan, that is 2016 4 KLT 637. 2016 4 KLT 637. You got the citation?
Yes, sir. We got it.
Okay. That's my decision. I have referred to all the earlier decisions, these two decisions. Why I say is that everyone is aware of the principle that the essential ingredients to constitute adverse possession and limitation are nec y, nec clam, and nec precario. Nec y means neither by force. Nec clam means neither secretly. Nec precario means neither by license or permission. So three essential ingredients for adverse possession are nec y, neither by force, nec clam, neither secretly, and nec precario, neither by license or permission. This is first mentioned in Korea versus Apohani, that is 1912 AC 230. Thereafter, this principle has been taken in many, it has been repeated by Supreme Court, and I think it is a worldwide concept now. Then, before that, actually, that Perry versus Clashold is a classic decision. I'll just give you a brief narration of the facts in that decision. Rightful owner of a certain land in New South Wales, Australia, which was resumed by the Minister of Public Instruction, was unknown and was out of possession. So a land was resumed by a minister by the state, and it was remaining unknown and it was out of possession. But one person has entered into possession of the property as a vacant land. It was lying vacant. Another person has entered the property and he had enclosed it by substantial fencing. Thenceforth, up to the date of resumption, he held exclusive possession thereof without notice of any adverse claim. He received rents and paid rates and taxes in respect of the land which stood in his name in the rate books of the municipality. It was held that the possessor was not a mere trespasser, but had a possessory title good at the date of resumption against everyone. It is further held that such a person had a prima facie case for compensation within the meaning of the relevant statute. Suppose he was ejected, he would have been entitled to claim compensation. So to that extent, his right has been matured. Then their lordships of the Privy Council Judicial Committee held, it cannot be disputed that a person in possession, I am reading the quotation, it cannot be disputed that a person in possession of land in the assumed character of owner and exercising peaceably the ordinary rights of ownership has a perfectly good title against all the world but the rightful owner, all the world but the rightful owner. And if the rightful owner does not come forward and assert his title by process of law within the period prescribed by the provisions of the statute of limitations applicable to the case, his right is forever extinguished and the possessory owner acquires an absolute title. So this principle has been clearly said in 1907 by the Privy Council. By that, of course, I'll have to count the number of judges here. I think it is. It was presided over Earl of Halsbury, Lord McNaughton, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 7 members of the Judicial Committee's decision. So this is the principle. So once I lose title to the property by adverse possession and limitation, certainly the adverse possessor will get it by default. So that is the first decision. This decision has been followed by the Supreme Court. I'll just give you some decisions where the Supreme Court has considered and appreciated this principle. That is Nair Service Society Limited versus KC Alexander and others. Nair Service Society Limited versus KC Alexander and others. That is AER 1968, Supreme Court 1165. AER 68, Supreme Court 1165. Now that, of course, there is one difference in facts. If you look into the facts in that case, you will find that this is a case actually falling within Article 64 of the present article. It was Article 143 at that time. In the 1908 Limitation Act, it was Article 143. Now it is Article 64, a suit based on possession. This is not actually this NSS case was not a case on Article 65, but then the principles have been considered. Where the Supreme Court held that the decision in Perry versus Clissold is a locus classicus and the principle is applicable in Indian context also. And thereafter also the Supreme Court approved this decision in many other decisions. No, actually the point that came up for consideration in Thomas versus Lonapan before me in that 2016 4 KLT 637 was whether that one decision by 2-judge bench of the Supreme Court in 2014, I just mentioned that Guru Granth Sahib, that is 2014, that is overruled by the Supreme Court in 2019. Guru Granth Sahib, just 1 minute. 2014 1 SEC 669. 2014 1 SEC 669. That is Guru Granth Sahib. Guru Granth Sahib versus Grama Panchayat Village. That was a decision by two-judge bench of the Supreme Court going against the principles in Perry and Classhold. Of course, that you can say that it is only a Privy Council decision, but then it goes against 57 Supreme Court three-judge bench and the 81 Supreme Court 707 another three-judge bench. So that question directly arose before me in the 2016 4 KLT 637, that is Thomas versus Lonapan, where I had to distinguish the facts in 2014 1 SEC Guru Granth Sahib and say that it cannot be followed as a binding precedent since I am bound to follow three-judge bench which is going against them, against the principle. Actually, in our discussion today, we have the academic freedom to say that one decision is not good. But of course, when I am sitting as a judge in the bench or when you are arguing a case as a lawyer before the court, you are bound to follow the decisions. But academic freedom must be there, must be respected to say that the principle therein is not good. No, in fact, since I am not able to say that on bench, since it's a two-judge bench, even if it is two-judge bench decision, it is by a Supreme Court, I can't say that. But I found 2-3 decisions to say that the principle goes against larger benches. So I distinguished it on facts. Please read the 2016, you will find the reason for that. Guru Granth Sahib was later expressly overruled in 2019 Supreme Court 3827. So we have seen that neck white, neck lamp and neck procario are the 3 essential ingredients for constituting a valid plea of adverse possession. Then I'll take you to one more decision of the Supreme Court that's very interesting. That is also followed by the three-judge bench in 2019. That is Sharangadeva Periyamadam versus Ramaswamy Gaudar, AER 1966 Supreme Court 1603. Sharangadeva Periyamadam versus Ramaswamy Gaudar, AER 66 Supreme Court 1603. That facts are, I shall just give you a brief description of the facts. Very interesting facts are there. Sri Sharangadeva Periyamadam of Kumbakonam was the Inam holder of the lands in dispute. In 1883, the then Madadipati granted a perpetual lease in a portion of the Inam lands to one Chinna Gopiya Gaudar, the grandfather of the plaintiff, who is the respondent before the Supreme Court. Since 1883 until January 1950, Chinna Gopiya Gaudar and his descendants were in uninterrupted possession over a period of nearly 63 years. Uninterrupted possession and enjoyment of the suit lands. In 1915, the Madadipati died without nominating a successor. Since 1915, the descendants of Chinna Gopiya Gaudar did not pay any rent to the Mutt. Between the descendants of Chinna Gopiya Gaudar, between 1915 and 1939, there was no Madadipati. One Basava Chetty was in management of the Mutt for a period of 20 years from 1915. Later, a Madadipati was elected by the disciples of the Mutt in 1939. In 1928, the collector of Madurai passed an order resuming the Inam lands and directing full assessment of the lands and payment of assessment to the Mutt for its upkeep. After resumption, the lands were transferred from the B register of the Inam lands to the A register of Raitwari lands, and the joint patta was issued in the name of the plaintiff and others in possession of the lands. The plaintiff continued to possess the suit lands until January 1950, when the Mutt obtained possession of the lands. On 18th February 1954, the plaintiff instituted the suit against the Mutt, represented by its Madadipati, claiming recovery of possession of the suit lands. By that time, the land was taken from his possession. That is interesting. The plaintiff claimed that he had acquired title to the lands by adverse possession and by the issue of a Raitwari patta in his favor on the resumption of the Inam. The trial court decreed the suit, and the first appellate court reversed the decree of the trial court. On a second appeal, the High Court restored the judgment of the trial court. Then the defendants approached the Supreme Court with a special leave. Then the questions raised are there mentioned. And then the Supreme Court held, where on the death of the Madhadipati in 1950 and in the absence of a legally appointed Madhadipati by operation of Article 144, present Article 65, read with Section 28, corresponding section is 27 in the new Act. 28 of the 1908 Act is 27 of this Act. The title of Mutt, that is a lessor, so the suit land has become extinguished in 1927 because to 1915 to 27, 12 years. And the plaintiff lessee acquired title to the lands by prescription. Holding so, the Supreme Court dismissed the appeal filed by the defendants. So this is a decision which clearly says that there is no bar for a suit by a person claiming title by adverse possession seeking recovery of possession. Guru Granth Sahib, the principle laid down in 2014 1 SEC, which has been overruled by the 2019 decision, is this. The title obtained by adverse possession can be used only as a shield. It can't be used as a sword to attack a person, especially the title holder. That is the view taken. But that principle directly goes against Sharanga Deva case, where it is mentioned that an adverse possessor can claim a person who has acquired title by adverse possession can claim recovery of property based on his title obtained by adverse possession, even against a true owner. So this principle was not considered. That is one reason for explaining that decision. Anyway, the Supreme Court has now clarified that Guru Granth Sahib does not lay down the correct principle. So these are the basic decisions on which we have to. And one more decision, very important decision, is 57 Supreme Court 314. That is Lakshmi Reddy. There that's a decision by 3 judges of the Supreme Court. The principle is, but it is well settled that in order to establish adverse possession of one cohere, and then see, actually that was a case where what is the difference between adverse possession and limitation on one hand and ouster on the other hand, ouster and adverse possession. That was the principle dealt with there. Well settled that in order to establish adverse possession of one cohere against another, it is not enough to show that one out of them is in sole possession and enjoyment of the profits of the properties. Ouster of the non-possessing cohere by the cohere in possession who claims his possession to be adverse should be made out. The possession of one cohere is considered in law as possession of all coheres. When one cohere is found to be in possession of the properties, it is presumed to be on the basis of a joint title. The cohere in possession cannot render his possession adverse to the other cohere not in possession merely by any secret hostile animus on his own part in derogation of the other cohere's title. That is Korea versus Apuhani relied on. And in later part of the decision, it is mentioned that that is not required in the case of strangers, because you need not go after the owner of the property and tell him that I am going to trespass upon your land. It is for him to find out whether his land is intact or not. So that is the essential difference that we will deal with at a later point in time. So all these decisions were not considered in Guru Granth Sahib. That is how this was distinguished. But the Supreme Court, now it has been overruled. Now, I may invite your attention to one more decision by me, that is Kerala, State of Kerala and others versus Brijit. That is 2018 to KHC 521. 2018 to KHC 521. Now there were very interesting question arose. Whether an inconsistent plea can be taken. That was the main question dealt with in that case. Now, can a person claim title to property? It's essentially a suit for recovery of possession. Can a person file a suit for recovery of possession based on the plea of title as well as an alternative plea of adverse possession, acquisition of title by adverse possession? Whether such a plaint is mutually whether such pleas are mutually exclusive, or whether such a plaint can be instituted. That was the question raised. I took a view that there is no inconsistency, because this is only alternative pleas. Because when you set up title, and if you do not establish your title to the property, if you are able to show that even if the other man had title to the property, you are in adverse possession of the property for the required time required under Article 65, then you can claim that right and claim recovery of possession is the position taken relying on many other decisions. My decision has been confirmed by a division bench of the Kerala High Court by Justice Chidambaresh in he also relied on that. I'll take you to some other Supreme Court decisions also on the point. Before that, I'll just give you the citation of Justice Chidambaresh decision. That is, the case party's name is KT.
Sorry,
Citation.
citation is 2018
Citation
5
is
KHC
2018 5 KHC 599. 2018 5 KHC 599. Or 2018 4 KLT 944.
Karingota Raji Tradition Kuti.
Correct. That's it. That was actually a reference, and the two judges affirmed the view, because that is we followed one Supreme Court decision in 81 Supreme Court 707. That I'll tell you straight away. I'll take you to that decision. 81 Supreme Court 707. Facts in Kshitish Chandra Bose is that plaintiff's appeal by special leave. He filed a suit for declaration of title and recovery of possession, and also for permanent prohibitory injunction restraining the defendant municipality from disturbing his possession. In the suit, the plaintiff raised a claim in respect of a plot within Ranchi municipality on the ground that he had acquired title to the land by virtue of a hukumnama, that is a lease deed, granted to him by the landlord as far back as 17/4/1912. Apart from the question of title, the plaintiff further pleaded that even if the land belonged to the defendant municipality, he had acquired title by prescription by being in possession of the land to the knowledge of the municipality for more than 30 years. That is to say, from 1912 to 1957. Trial court accepted the plaintiff's case and they decreed the suit. Defendant filed an appeal before the Additional Judicial Commissioner Ranchi, who, after consideration of the evidence, confirmed the finding of the trial court and maintained the decree. High Court, in second appeal, allowed the appeal and remanded the case to the court below. That was challenged before the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, after considering the entire issues, held thus. Paragraph 8. It was then observed by the High Court that mere sporadic acts of possession exercised from time to time would not be sufficient for acquisition of title by adverse possession. As discussed above, the High Court has not at all cared even to go through the evidence regarding the nature of acts said to have been committed by the appellant, nor to find out whether there were any sporadic or incidental, whether they were any merely sporadic or incidental. Another reason given by the High Court was that adverse possession should have been effective and adequate in continuity and publicity. Here, the High Court has gone wrong on a point of law. All that law requires is that possession must be open and without any attempt at concealment. It is not necessary that the person must be possession must be so effective so as to bring it to the specific knowledge of the owner. Such a requirement may be insisted on where an ouster of title is pleaded, but that is not the case here. These findings, however, clearly show that possession of the plaintiff was hostile to the full knowledge of the municipality, and the claim of the plaintiff was allowed. Now, actually, why I say that, you will find a decision in 2000 Supreme Court, year 2000 Supreme Court and 2007 Supreme Court and 2007 SCC. I don't remember the citation. Just 1 minute if you want. Okay, this 2007 3 SCC 569 lays down a principle that the plaintiff must plead and prove the date and from which he claims to be in exclusive, continuous and undisturbed possession, and also that such possession was actual and to the knowledge of the real owner. He has also shown that the title, he has also to show hostile title and communicate it to the real owner. That is the view taken, very extreme view. That actually goes against this three-judge bench decision. And that is the essential difference between ouster and adverse possession. So that is also covered in 81 Supreme Court 707. Now that is one question raised before me in that decision. Then and the other two decisions which I mentioned at the opening, this portion of my session, that Supreme Court has one decision. Supreme Court held that the plea of adverse possession is a human right violation. That is 2009 Supreme Court 103. Year 2009 Supreme Court 103, which says that the plea of adverse possession is not a pure question of law, but a blended one of fact and law. Therefore, a person who claims adverse possession should show that, etc., etc. since he is trying to defeat the rights of the throne, it is for him to clearly plead and establish. Then it is mentioned that it has to be considered as a human violation of human rights. No, anyway, that can't be the good law after this, at least after 2019.
And section 27.
That as long as section 27 is there, whether you like it or not, you have to follow the letter of law. You can't ignore it. Unless you take out that provision from the Limitation Act, you are bound to follow it. Then, then probably some other essential ingredients. I think I've almost covered all the aspects relating to this adverse possession. And then the principle of packing of adverse possession, that is possible. Suppose A trespasses upon another man's property and keeps possession for 10 years. He did not keep it for 12 years, but after 10 years, he assigns his right to another person. His possessory right is assigned to a third party, and the assignee comes in possession and continues for more than 12 years or another 3 years. Then he perfects title. Only distinction is that suppose A trespasses upon B's property and keeps for 10 years, and C trespasses upon property in possession of A, ousting A, then he will have to continue for 12 years. There is no question of tacking. Tacking, there must be a dual relationship between two persons to tack on. One person cannot oust a trespasser and claim adverse possession through him. Then he will have to prescribe for another 12 years. That is the only difference. Then as Shyam pointed out, the name of this program is Squatters' Rights. Actually, there is a legal, misnomer, because squatter doesn't get a right unless he has an intention to keep hostile possession. Because a squatter sitting in another man's property for 100 years cannot claim adverse possession, because it is some sort of permissive thing. A person sitting there with the consent or with connivance can't get it. He must, in unambiguous terms, send out a clear signal that I am possessing the property against the whole world, including the true owner.
As of right.
Correct. As of right. It is my right to possess it, and it is against the entire world. So a mere squattering may not confer a right on a person if it is in the nature of a permissive this thing. Now, another concept probably that can be mentioned in this context is prescription of other rights like lease. So many rights can be prescribed. So prescription, if you are so interested, I'll just give you the principles regarding prescriptions also. Adverse possession also involves the principle of prescription. I'll just give you that.
Are you hinting at prescription of limited right?
Yes.
Limited right.
No, not. It can be a limited right, but yes, before that, let us clearly understand what do you mean by prescription, because there are two prescriptions, two theories possible regarding prescription. That is what this learned author Salman says. Let's just find out that portion. Yes, Salman on jurisprudence says prescription may be defined as the effect of lapse of time in creating and destroying rights. Because if a right is created by prescription in favor of one person, naturally it destroys right in favor of another person. It is consequential. It is the operation of time as a vestive factor. It is of two kinds, namely one, positive or acquisitive prescription, and two, negative or extinctive prescription. The former is the creation of a right, the latter is the destruction of one by the lapse of time. An example of the former is the acquisition of a right by way of the de facto use it for 20 years. In England it is 20 years. An instance of the latter is the destruction of a right to sue, etc., etc. So here the essential difference between extinction of title by prescription is that one man loses title, the other man gets it. The wrongdoer gets it and the rightful owner loses it. Whereas in the case of prescriptive lease, there is no destruction of right, but an inferior right is created by that. Absolute right is not destroyed, but some subservient right is created in favor of a person who came into possession in a wrongful manner. So that is it's a derivative right rather. It's not a substantive right. But in the case of losing title by adverse possession and limitation, it is actually destruction of a right. Then it will fall within the positive or accusative description, which causes negative or extinctive prescription, in the words of Salmon. So I think I'll just wind up and wait for questions now, because it's almost 1 hour now. If anything omitted, probably if anybody raises an issue, probably I can answer it. Seems I'll try to answer that.
So thank you very much for that clear exposition of law of adverse possession. We have a couple of questions coming up. The
Yes.
first one being, they would like to know which principle is correct. Possession follows title, or title follows possession, or both are applicable?
Both are applicable, actually. Both are correct in different contexts. Title follows possession is always considered in barren lands where you are not able to find who exercises possession. For example,
Section 110.
Section 110, Evidence Act.
Correct.
Then see, Shyam, there is one aspect, because in Kerala you don't find such lands. Now, if you go to North India or any other place where large tracts of land, especially barren lands lying, you will not find any cultivation there. It is just vacant land without any boundaries. So you can't, by naked eye, you can't say whether there is any act of possession exercised at all. Then if in respect of such lands, the principle is that title follows possession. The person who is having title has the possession, is the principle. Right. But whereas if you take, say, 5 cents of land or 10 cents of land where there is a residential building, or say the 50 cents of land where this arecanut tree or coconut tree cultivation is happening, or any other cultivation, for example, that of course the possession is also an indication of title, because there you can find out possession. You can visibly see who is in possession. Acts of possession is visible there. That is the difference between possession follows title and title follows possession.
Sir, one question was forwarded by Advocate Pradeep, which I had forwarded to you, sir.
1 minute. Let me just take it from my mobile. And what is his name? Another question I asked.
Sir, should I read that?
Sorry. No, 1 acre property belonging to temple.
That's the one. Yeah, 1 acre property.
Okay. That I see. See, but the question lacks a lot of missing links are there in the facts. Now, if I go through the question, what I find is that the Samurin Raja assigned a property to Karnarvai Tharwad by a Verumbatam. Assignment, it's a demise.
Correct.
In 1930. If I remember correctly, the Malabar Tenancy Act came in force in 1932, if I remember correctly, after 30 anyway. Correct. Either 32 or 39. Rajaji's enactment is that. And the Verumbatam Dar was not given a fixity right. Because what was the very, very progressive piece of legislation it was, but then what was given is that right to renew this Kanam rights. Kanam is an anomalous mortgage, you know that, it's an anomalous mortgage. There is, in the Kanam is given for a period of 12 years normally, and there was no right of renewal. It was after 12 years you have to vacate. By that time you must have made lot of improvements in the property. So the Kanam Dar is left with no option but to vacate. So that by that Malabar Tenancy Act, first time it was introduced to have a first option for the Kanam Dar to renew it. So even after 12 years, he may continue in possession in respect of Kanam properties. But insofar as Verumbatam properties are not concerned, there was no fixity or any other right given at that time. It came for the first time in the KLR Act, that is with effect from 1/4/1964. So the question is not very clear as to that, because so the first aspect is that Verumbatam in 1932 for 12 years. Either it can be a Kanam or Verumbatam, normally it is not given for 12 years.
Correct.
Maybe there may be exceptions, I do not know, but 12 years for the Kanam on a Sadharana period. After the expiry, the same was renewed and given to brother of the Karnavar, who was deceased for a period of time. The renewal documents are missing. After the period of time, subsequently, it was assigned to the manager of the said Tharwad. Manager means Karnavar, I presume it is Karnavar. Before the advent of HR and
Pradeep is there. I mean, Pradeep, can you just come forward if you can?
If the question is more clarified, probably I can try to answer you.
So what we'll do is that if he's not coming forward right now, we'll ask him to clarify and send it across, sir, so that we can share the answer in the group.
Oh, please.
So we have Manpreet Kaur has raised the hand. Manpreet, can you just come forward?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, please.
Yeah, sir, I just wanted to ask you, after the 2019 SC judgment,
Yes.
now is it a settled principle of law that it can be used both as a shield as well as a sword? Can someone claim forward and claim title on the basis of adverse possession?
Absolutely, because I'll just read out one portion from that judgment, which makes your doubt, which clarifies your doubt. I'll just read out one minute, please.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Because since it's a very long decision, it's difficult to find out. But I can tell you, I've read somewhere. I'm not able to point it out right now. Just 1 minute. When we consider the law of adverse possession.
Even in 1966 Supreme Court 1603, it was used as a sword.
It was, and it is expressly mentioned here also. Because that is why this Guru Granth Sahib is overruled. I was just trying to place my finger on that paragraph. 1 minute. Trespasser construed, etc.
Para 48 and 50.
No, there is one paragraph where this is expressly overruled. That is mentioned. There it is also mentioned. Sharangadeva Periyamadam was referred to therein. I have read it somewhere.
Paragraph 61.
61. No, 61 is not there. 61 is last. No, that is overruling. No, that was actually the principle in Guru Granth Sahib was that you can't claim, you can file a suit based on title by claiming adverse possession and limitation. That was the express principle that is overruled with a clear statement of law that it doesn't lay down the correct principle. It goes against the earlier decisions. Madam, please go through this decision. There is a clear mention about that. There cannot be any doubt on that.
Sure, sir. I'll do. Thank you so much.
In fact, without a declaratory decree, an adverse possessor cannot claim title, is it not?
That is not required, sir, because there is a principle that every suit for injunction or every suit asserting a right by a person is potentially a declaration suit. Suppose I file a suit for recovery of possession against another person saying that you have trespassed upon my property, I am the title holder. You
mean possessory title? Possessory title.
Any title for that matter. If I am claiming on my absolute title, then there is an implied declaration that I am the owner of the property. If that relief of recovery of possession is granted, there is an implied decree that I am entitled to get it. So that is somewhat a declaration. Even though it is not expressly asked for, by grant of adverse possession, grant of recovery of possession on my claim of title, virtually court recognizes my title, and that is an implied declaration. By way of abundant caution, you can ask it. Even if you do not ask it, there is nothing wrong in that. Here, recovery of possession will be sufficient. That is applicable to possessory title also. Because there is one decision, one Allahabad full bench, I don't remember the citation, which says that every injunction suit is potentially a declaration suit because you are in possession of the property is a declaration. When injunction is granted finding that you are in possession, there is an implied declaration that you are in possession. The same principle applies to this recovery of possession also.
Sir, Advocate Haridas has got
Haridas asked me a question. His question, Haridas available or no?
Very much here, sir. Yeah.
I am here.
1 minute, Haridas, 1 minute.
I asked that question also on the basis of Supreme Court, AR 154 also.
Which one?
19. That's a brief decision. The principles are later deeming to the
Justice Hindu Malhotra decision alle.
Adalla 64 Supreme Court 1254.
Adalla. Question recent decision undu. To the point, directly on the point. I'll give you that. Just 1 second, please. Let me just find it out. Justice Hindu Malhotra decision. So after this 2019. That is in 2020.
Can repeat that?
1 minute. I'll give you the citation. Just 1 minute. I'm just searching for that. 1 second. I'll give you. Yes. Haridas, your question is 1 minute. Let me take your question, please. Will you please repeat your question then?
If a property is assigned to a person by the government,
Ah,
30 years of limitation
ah,
wouldn't might merged into the recovery by the government
hmm.
hit by limitation.
Allah, see, Haridas, the answer is very clear. Suppose the
Assign-
government has assigned the property by way of Land Assignment Act or some other provision.
Permissive possession. Is it
I
not?
don't know. After assignment, the government is stopped from denying title to that person.
Title.
You can't file a suit.
And his possession qua government is permissive. Is
But
it not? How
no,
can
sir,
he prescribe an adverse title
he
unless-
can't prescribe.
unless the assignment is illegal, invalid?
Correct. If it is an invalid assignment, the person in possession, the person who is put in possession by the government may claim title against the government. But once the government assigns property in his name and he comes into possession by virtue of the assignment which is valid, he can't have an adverse possession against the government. He is
Referable to a
given-
valid title. Is it not?
Correct. His possession is referable to title, and the government is stopped from claiming recovery of possession against that person because government itself has assigned the property to him.
Correct, my lord.
That if you want, I'll give you one citation also. 2020, 2021, volume 1 KLT, 2021 KLT 430. Now, there probably this is the point laid down therein. The state cannot be permitted to perfect its title over the land by invoking the doctrine of adverse possession to grab the property of its own citizens, as has been done in this case. In this case, a property was conveyed. State cannot dispossess the citizen and claim adverse possession. That is the principle in this decision.
My lord,
So-
may one add, my lord, the government is the assignment is on some riders or some conditional assignment. Then you have violated that condition. For example, it's for agricultural use. When I use for commercial purpose, government can say that you have used for another purpose. So we are canceling your assignment. We are getting it back, trying to get it back. Then the whether the even without adverse possession, whether government can the other question, even if his assignment it is a gift also, TP Act will squarely according to me, and that's a different question.
Haridas, 1 minute, please, Haridas, 1 minute, because you can't say that it's not a gift by the government to a person. Assignment is an assignment under the law because Land Assignment Act can't be equated to a gift. Land assignment is as part of government policy to give a piece of land to landless people. Maybe you say that there is no consideration, but you can't invoke TP Act provisions there. It is all dependent on the terms of assignment.
Yes, my lord.
So you can't refer to these rights and liabilities under the TP Act. You will have to consider the terms and conditions in the deed of assignment. If it is a conditional assignment, and if he has flouted this thing, the government, if that is a very vital condition, and there is a clause, reserved for resumption possible, then the government is perfectly well within their power to recover it. What is wrong in that?
Well, if the usage in a different manner starts from prior to 30 years, can it be? If I use the land for another purpose, apart from the purpose of assignment, from 8 I use the land for another purpose, then the adverse possession will start.
The difficulty is this adverse possession. See, how can you say that there is an adverse possession? Because you claim the property belonged to the government at one point of time. You say that the property was government land at one point of time. Your title is also traceable to government. Since you violated the conditions of assignment, government could have done that. 30 years elapsed. 30 years elapsed. We understand the question. We understand. But can you say that it is because of adverse possession that you are resisting the action by the government? You can't claim adverse possession. If you trespassed upon government land and constructed there, probably you see adverse possession can only commence if your entry was unlawful. It must be a wrong entry. After entering the property under a valid color of title or right or whatever it is, you can't say that I am having adverse possession against the government. You can say that the government's right has become defeated by limitation. That is not adverse possession. There is no question of adverse possession arising there. Government's claim is barred by limitation, law of limitation. It's not because of adverse possession.
Or at a given point of time, he should have openly denied the title of the government and should have continued for 30 years thereafter.
Then again 30 years will have to be taken again.
Yes.
But once he says that it was government land and I got assignment from government, then he can't say that.
No, once government demand the property back by way of resumption.
Then of course he resists and continues for another 30 years.
Another 30 years.
Then he should have been able to establish that this land never belonged to government. It was somebody else's land. I was in their occupation for 30 years.
Just 30.
If I can reframe the question of Haridas sir, I mean, it amounts to this: inaction on the part of the government to take any action in the event of violation of terms of assignment. Will it give a fresh start?
No. See, if you read Article 112, Article 112 says suit by government is 30 years.
Correct.
So the government could have filed a suit saying that this man has breached the conditions in the assignment order. Since the government has not ventured to do it within 30 years, government's suit is barred, and he is sitting in the property not by virtue of adverse possession, but by the law of limitation prevents the government from filing a suit. There is no question of adverse possession there.
Thank you, sir. We have Lakshmi Menon with a question. Lakshmi, can you just put it?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, sir. Thank you so much for the excellent presentation. I have only a small doubt. Sir, you mentioned one 1966 Supreme Court judgment that spoke about adverse possession when the party was actually not in possession.
Right. No, 1 minute. Which is that this is Sharanga Periyadeva Madam.
Where some Inam lands were converted into Rayatwari lands, etc. That portion on the clear area.
I'll just take you to that 1 minute. I'll have facts. 1 minute. One second.
Where the Matadivati was not nominated. But actually, Mr. Hariprasad, the person who got the property from the mutt, his possession is permissive, is it not?
Kumbakonam. In 1883, the then Madhadipati granted a perpetual lease in a portion of the Inam lands. Perpetual lease, the 1883.
All right. So he is a lessee.
He is a lessee, but without any condition for evicting him. He remained in the property as a perpetual lessee.
Yes.
Chinna Gopiya Gounder, the grandfather of the plaintiff respondent.
So it is not a permissive possession.
He is a lessee. He is a lessee in permissive possession. Character disclaim
referable to valid title.
Referable at one point, but he denounces his character as lessee and re-enters the property.
He should have openly denied the title of the land.
I'll just read that fact, sir, once again. Since 1883 until January 1950, Chinnappa Gowder and his descendants were in uninterrupted possession and enjoyment of the suit lands. In 1915, the Madhadipati died without nominating a successor. So lesser lessee relationship came to an end. There was no Madhadipati and nobody. He was not accountable to anyone. He did not pay any lease.
By virtue of which operation of law?
Because Madhadipati was...
Once the grantor dies, a grant comes to an end. Is it so? Is it a license?
No, sir. That grant doesn't come to an end, but he denies the grant because by default he breaches the conditions in the grant and continues it for so many years.
Openly asserting
his right.
Hostile title.
Correct.
Okay.
Chinnappa Gounder and his descendants were in uninterrupted possession and enjoyment of the suit lands. In 1915, the Madhadipati died without nominating a successor. Since 1915, the descendants of Chinnappa Gounder did not pay rent to the mutt. Between 1915 and 39, there was no Madhadipati, but when Kesava Chetty was in management of the mutt for 20 years, later Madhadipati was elected, etc. 28 collector, and then what happened in 1928? The collector of Madurai passed an order resuming the Inam lands, taking possession of the lands, and directing full assessment of the lands and payment of the assessment to the mutt for its upkeep. After resumption, the lands were transferred from B register to A register, then etc. The plaintiff continued to possess the suit lands until January 1950 when the mutt obtained possession of the lands. Till the mutt obtained possession by resumption at the instance of the collector in 1950, this man was in possession of the property, denying the right of the mutt and without paying any rent or profit. that is why the Supreme Court said that he denounced the character as a lessee and re-entered the property, and therefore the much right has been lost by adverse possession and limitation. That is the logic behind this.
So 1 second. So that's
Please.
exactly where my question is. When the collector actually reassessed the property to all pending taxes and rents.
That happened only in 1928. This was 1915 to 28. He was in possession of the property. This man's descendants were in possession of the property without paying anything, with a hostile animus. So 15 to 28 means how many years? It's nearly more than 12 years, 13 years. 13 years, because 1908 Act, Article 144 says it's only 12 years required, as in the present Act. So
now,
there he has completed. Pardon, sir?
Legally, once the adverse possessor has perfected title by adverse possession, thereafter the original owner re-enters the property, he does not
he does not get title. That is a decision. That is also a decision by Kerala High Court. That is 66 KLT. 66 KLT. I'll just give you that citation. 66 KLT. There is one decision which says that the real after extinction of right.
Yes.
That is 66 KLT 1084. Ribera and others versus Kurian and others. The principle is, Division Bench of this court held that if a party who is out of possession for 12 years and whose suit for possession is therefore barred, is again let into possession, he is not remitted to his old title. The principle is that when title of the former owner has been extinguished by prescription, his title is not restored, and he will be treated only as a trespasser should he come into possession again. So that exactly is the case in this Periyamadam also, because after 13 years the collector resumes it, and only in 1950 the Math gets possession of the property. Even after so much years, from 28 to 50, these people were in possession of the property. So they have perfected title before 28, and even after 28 till 1950, the man's descendants were in possession. Even though title was mutated in the name of Mutt, they were not having actual possession. That is what the Supreme Court said. I think the point is clear now.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
A couple of hands have come up. I'll just rush through. The next is Advocate Vishwanathan.
Please.
Sir, are you there? Advocate Vishwanathan.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Please.
Good evening. Sir, suppose one party, with the permission, he gives certain portion of land to another. And he was continuously occupying the portion. And subsequently, as we said, is that there was certain condition they violated, and that person comes with a suit to evict him.
Which person?
The person who has already granted.
Grantor or the grantee?
No, grantor comes with a suit.
Okay.
Stating that there is a violation. There is a violation of use. There is a violation of use in the land.
When did the violation take place?
That they never disclosed, but it is more than 30 years he is in possession of the grantee.
Even after violation, see, you said that it was some sort of permissive occupation initially to begin with.
Yes.
Later, grantee violated the terms of disposition.
That's what grantor says.
All right. Anyway, that is the allegation in the plain.
Allegation.
That is the allegation in the plain, that the grantee has violated the terms of grant.
The terms of grant.
And the grantor does not say when that had happened. He does not say so. What is the defense of the other man? The
other man says there is no violation. There is no violation, and there is no demand for eviction earlier. It is continued more than 30 years.
No, then Mr. Vishwanathan, the point is he can't claim adverse possession, because if he says that there is no violation, he continues to be a derivative possessor. He can't speak against the grant then.
Permissive possession.
He remains to be in permissive possession. There is no question of adverse possession. If only he says that yes, I have violated it, but the violation was much before 12 years, probably he can claim adverse possession. If he says that there is no violation, I am still a grantee, complying with all the conditions, there is no question of adverse possession arising there.
Can he claim estoppel? Can claim estoppel?
Yes.
He is estopped from. He is estopped.
Correct.
115.
116.
116.
The grantor.
Tenant. Tenant is estopped from denying the title of the landlord.
Tenant, lessee and licensee also.
Tenant means lease and license. Dual relationship. Derivative rights in okay estoppel avade varullu. Estoppel question arising illa. There is no question of estoppel arising here. This man's plea of adverse possession is not sustainable because as long as he says that I have not violated any conditions, you have to go by the terms of the document, which shows that this man is in possession by virtue of some permission. So even if he keeps it for 1,000 years, there cannot be an adverse possession.
Okay,
Clear?
sir.
Clear? Okay.
Okay, sir.
We have Rajesh Raju. Rajesh Raju, please. Can you make it fast? Rajesh. Okay, next we have Mohan Kumar. I think P.T. Mohan Kumar, sir, please.
Can I ask?
Sure.
Please. Mr. Mohan Kumar, please.
My only doubt is that whether the principle laid on Munchikal Reddy, that is 2007 ruling, whether it survives.
No.
After 2019.
No, it doesn't survive.
That's only one.
It doesn't survive. That is even say Mr. Mohan Kumar, even in the academic planes, when I sit in the bench, probably I'm bound to follow that, but even academically speaking, that is not good law because it's the cardinal distinction between ouster on one hand and adverse possession limitation on the other hand. You need not know. There is one decision by Kerala High Court. I don't remember the citation. If I remember correctly, it is by Justice S. Padmanabhan. His Lordship has said that you need not know this adverse possession is against the whole world. You need not go after the owner and tell him that I am going to trespass upon your property. That is for the owner to find out whether somebody has trespassed on your land.
Except in the case of ouster.
That applies only in the case of ouster.
Giving notice of dispossession.
Correct. With great respect, that appears to be a wrong principle. Anyway, that has been set right by 2019. Ouster principle because I know the principle under sir. Ramkumar sir, the principle is every owner is part owner of every inch of property. So
he is presumed to be in possession on behalf of
others. Presumed to be on behalf of other person. So you have to rebut that presumption by openly saying that I am not in your favor. I am against in my own independent right. That burden is only in the case of co-owners.
Otherwise, his possession, however long it may be.
Right.
It's never adverse.
So we have Radhakrishna
Murthy.
Radhakrishna Murthy, please.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, though my question is not directly to the topic, but since that there was a debate in respect of title to the position and all, on that point, just I would like to one question.
Please.
Actually, we have filed a suit for declaration and cancellation of sale deed. Okay.
On what ground?
Pending matter?
On what ground?
On the ground of this thing, because I am having sale deed.
All right.
Okay.
Pending case or no?
No, this is from Hyderabad and all. Okay, that is
pending case. Okay.
He is from Hyderabad, no problem. Let him.
You won't be cited.
Okay. No, what happened actually? Then I have asked for cancellation of sale deed and all. I won in this thing, originally sued. Subsequently, that they have filed appeal also that they have lost. Now, since that they have also granted the cancellation of sale deed and all, when I approached this sub-registrar, by the time that they have filed second appeal, okay, and that they have obtained stay of all.
So 1 minute, Mr. Radhakrishnan, you succeeded in both courts. No.
I have succeeded in both courts, suit as well as in first appeal. What happened before cancellation of that sale deed and all, that they have approached the High Court, stay of all further proceedings that they have obtained. In the meantime, forcibly he has come into the position. Okay. Now, one room that he has constructed. Now the second appeal is pending. So that time, since it was a vacant land and that too it is in my hand, that's the reason, and that too the principle that is the title follows the position and all. That's the reason, it being an open land, I did not ask for it. Now, since that he has constructed a small room, so therefore necessarily whether I have to ask any other relief or the second appeal which was filed by them, in which what is the relief that I can ask?
See, you could have claimed maintenance of status quo till the disposal of the second appeal. Why did not you ask for that?
Sorry?
You could have asked for maintenance of status quo ante of the property pending appeal. You could have requested the High Court for directing the opposite party to maintain status quo instead of building on the land.
I have filed one IA saying that he should not alienate because I have given GPA to my sister. That is only to manage. But what they did, instead of managing, they obtained the sale deed through my sister. So therefore, in the GPA, no such power is there and all. Therefore, I could won in both the, original suit as well as first appeal. But in the second appeal, by that time, I have lost my possession because it being open land and all. So that's the reason now. What is the relief that I can ask in the second appeal?
Suppose you succeed in the second appeal. Suppose you succeed in the second appeal, you can invoke section 144 CPC and seek restitution of the property pending.
Yeah, that is there and all. I need to wait till such decision, or in the meantime that I need to make any other appeal.
In the meantime, you need not do anything. You can't do anything also because you have to get the second appeal disposed of. That's all.
And the improvement will inure to him.
No, because it is a trespasser's improvement.
No. In the second appeal, ultimately, see, even if the second appeal is dismissed, tomorrow 144 in that and all, again it will be this thing. No, when I have lost position, everything it has to be established, isn't it? Then.
No. See, if you are able to show that there is a decree in your favor and pending the appeal proceedings, because which is continuation of suit.
No, normally 144 by virtue of appeal or by virtue of any court decision, if anything is there, then that can be reversed, isn't it? But here, no such finding at all, anything in respect of position. Straight away, now that they have come onto the position, before filing of this thing, second appeal, and obtain, of course, all style further proceeding.
All right, one minute. Are you the plaintiff in the suit?
I am the plaintiff in the suit.
All right, if you, by way of abundant caution, if you want, you can file an amendment petition in the second appeal of your plaint seeking recovery of possession, stating that in the meantime they have. But the difficulty is that this will again go back to the trial court for adducing evidence.
That difficulty will be there and all because nothing is there to amend and all. Because first of nothing is there to amend and all. So I can't even ask for the amendment of the plaint now.
Can he not file a petition for injunction for restoration of the status quo?
Correct. Restoration, mandatory injunction you can ask.
Yes.
Mandatory injunction, second appeal you can ask. If you seek for the other relief, the difficulty is that for after allowing the amendment or considering the amendment, you will be asked to adduce evidence in respect of that before the trial court. So remand becomes inevitable. So
additional written statement.
Again, additional written statement, lot of time consumption will be there. In order to avoid that, as Honorable Justice Ramkumar has pointed out, file a petition for mandatory injunction in the second appeal saying that they have done a mischief during the pendency of the proceedings.
Interim mandatory injunction for restoration of status quo as on the date of filing the suit.
No, my worry is by any chance if they deny, because definitely when forcibly that they have come in, tactfully that they will deny now saying
take out a commission. Take out a commission.
Show that it was pending proceedings. You can, there are decisions by Supreme Court, I don't remember the decision directly, which say that any change of circumstances created by one party pending proceedings can be undone. Do that.
Then I'll try. Then I have to move an application for mandatory injunction in the second.
Consider, please.
Interim mandatory injunction.
Please go through the decisions.
Thank you.
Krishnamurthy, you can send across the consultation fees to me later.
Exactly.
Please give it to Shyam Patman.
Sir, I shall come to you, Munir. Before that, Vipin Das, please put the case.
Thank you.
Vipin.
Yeah, Vipin.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
A person was in possession of property for about Am I audible?
No, there is disturbance.
Am I audible now, sir? Person was in possession of the property for honest title for 40 years.
You are not audible.
Vipin audible alla.
Some technical snack somewhere.
Kekando, sir?
Ippa kekund.
One person was in in possession of the property for 30 to 40 years. One fine day, the
Vipin, can you do one thing? Are we audible? If you can put in the chat, I can read it out for you. You can just put that question in the chat.
It's a long question, that's why. Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Sir, a person was in possession of the property for around 30 to 40 years.
Holding under a title. Holding under a valid title.
Holding under a title. And one day, these revenue authorities issue a notice under the Land Conservancy Act, alleging that a portion of the property is a government land. Government land. So the issuance of notice would be a interference of his possession for the continuous years in a suit for
issuance of notice by itself may not be an interference of possession. Issuance of notice give rise to a cause of action to the person. That's all. It doesn't amount to interference of possession. Interference or the actual interference തന്നെയാണ് ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്.
നോട്ടീസ് ഇട്ടുകൊണ്ട് ഇന്റർഫിയറൻസ് വരുന്നില്ല.
It's only a demand. അതിനൊരു decisions ഉണ്ട് അതിന്റെ മുകളിൽ. എനിക്ക് എന്റെ ഫിംഗർ ടിപ്സിലില്ല.
Rather, it admits his possession.
അതെ. Possession is admitted, but he is asked to vacate എന്നല്ലേ എന്റെ അർത്ഥം.
അതാണ് Land Conservancy Act
doesn't have an interference.
Interference. Then second aspect on the very same issue is whether the issue of adverse possession can be raised considered by the quasi-judicial authorities.
No, because it's available only in a suit or proceedings.
Suit, okay.
And adverse possession is a relief claimable through court only. Recovery of possession can adverse possession limitation. You have to defend the suit. How is he competent to decide that question? Adverse possession is a question to be decided by court.
Yes. That's what.
Limitation Act doesn't apply there. Limitation Act doesn't apply there.
Okay.
It applies only to court. Any plea available under the Limitation Act can be raised only before a court.
Okay.
Unless the state is also a party to the suit.
State is a party. State. Revenue authorities are issuing the notice on behalf of the state.
In the suit, state is a party.
There is no suit. I'm just
notice
whether that notice would cause 30 years notice whether he lose that defense of adverse possession.
That only confirms your possession.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir.
Over to Munir, please. Munir, please. You'll have to unmute yourself, Munir.
Yes, I have unmuted. Sir, a person is trespasser is in possession for 13 years with satisfying all the ingredients. And on the 14th year, the owner tries to forcefully enter the property. And at time, trespasser goes to the civil suit, files a simple suit for injunction alone against the true owner, making a mere averment that the trespasser who was in possession for 13 years, satisfying all ingredients, when on the 14th year, when he was threatened by and forced by the true owner, he approached the civil court by a simple suit for injunction. At that time, the true owner produces his documents and everything. Then my question is on the framing of suit, whether I will have to frame the suit as a declaratory suit and any consequent injunction, or whether a simple suit for injunction would be suffice.
No, injunction suit is sufficient normally, but by way of abundant caution, since you claim a right by adverse possession limitation, there is not any document to show that. It is advisable always to file a suit for declaration consequential injunction. But mere injunction suit is not what you call bar for raking such a claim, because you are claiming only a possessory right. Now, the difference between a declaration and injunction and a simple injunction suit is this. In a comprehensive suit, you get a higher relief. And in a suit for injunction, what is declared is that as on the date of suit, you are in possession of the property. It is always better for such a party to get a declaration that you have perfected title by adverse possession. That will be a higher right claimable. Always advisable to claim it.
Yeah. Why this doubt came?
Is that 79 KLT decision still good law? That even a rank trespasser can maintain an action for injunction even against the true owner.
In 2019, principle justified.
Even against the true owner.
Rank trespasser.
Rank trespasser.
That is for injunction.
Injunction.
Other 2004, there is a 2004 SEC, there is a decision. A trespasser in settled possession can file a suit even against a true owner. Sporadic act of trespass pora. Trespasser trespassing upon property and keeping possession for a long time and settled possession can file.
Here it is 13 years. 13 years.
13 years means he has perfected title here.
Yes, yes.
So he is entitled to do that. But always better to file a declaration suit.
Sir, as you already said that you have some appointment, but can I,
yes.
Persons waiting, can I indulge or should we stop it here?
എത്ര പേരുണ്ട്?
5 പേരുണ്ട് sir, 5 more.
Should not the number should not the number should not increase.
No, I mean it's keeping on increasing, but I'll confine to this 5. I'll just block it.
All right.
Advocate A.S. Dilip, please.
5.
Yeah, Advocate A.S. Dilip, please. Are you there?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah, it's my question is with regard to the same case which was asked by Advocate Lakshmi Menon. It is with regard to it's not audible.
So Dilip ഒന്നും കേൾക്കുന്നില്ലല്ലോ.
Hello.
Yes. Please speak.
Is it audible?
No. ഒന്നും കേൾക്കുന്നില്ല.
ആണോ? Sorry.
ശ്യാം അടുത്ത ആളെ ട്രൈ ചെയ്യാം.
Yeah, I'll do one thing. I will come back to you.
We'll come back to you.
NC Rajesh Devikulam.
Hello, sir. Can you hear?
Parry, please.
Sir, I have got a doubt. A leasehold right was given by the state to a third party. And that property right was adjudicated by the government by way of a statute. It's a long possession. And a third party who is a lessee under the lessee of the government, who is holding the land for much more period, that which is commenced from earlier possession, and now also which comes to a period of 50 years. I think so. It's a 50 years, and the right over the property is settled by the statute.
Mr. Rajesh, the problem is the Kannada നമ്മൾ എന്തൊരു opinion
sublessee and lessee.
അല്ല facts വളരെ complicated ആണ്.
Why don't you put it in writing so that he can give you a written?
അതാ പറഞ്ഞത്.
Simple ആണ് സാർ. ഞാൻ മലയാളത്തിൽ ചോദിച്ചോളാം. Simple ആയിട്ട്. ഒരാൾക്ക് ലീസ് കൊടുത്തു പ്രോപ്പർട്ടി ഗവൺമെന്റ് ലാൻഡ് ലീസ് കൊടുത്ത ലെസ്സി ഓഫ് ദി ഗവൺമെന്റ് ലാൻഡ് leased out a certain portion of the land to a third party. Sublease.
Was he permitted to do that?
Yeah, it was by way of a deed.
Is there any permission in the original lease deed to create a sublease?
No. No such clause is there.
Illegal.
It's the original deed. And I am continuous as a lessee under the lessee.
You are the sublessee.
The right of the properties are settled by way of a statute, and which is resumed to the government. I am continuous as a lessee under the earlier lessee.
You cannot have a
whether I can claim a right of adverse possession against the government.
You can't have a better right than your original person. You are only a derivative right holder.
Yes. That's why I'm putting the right is settled by a statute. The government has a right over that property.
Difficult to answer that question, because if you have re-entered the property in your own independent trespassers right, probably you can claim. But if you are claiming under someone who is claiming through the government, you can't claim adverse possession. If you have an independent right, assertion of independent right, maybe it may be a wrong right, bad right. But then you should have an independent claim. You can't have a derivative claim to claim adverse possession. It is not possible.
Yes.
That's it.
Otherwise, your right is referable to a valid title.
That's it.
Sir, I think if you put in this manner, there is objectionable sublessee. No action being taken by the original person who ought to have taken action. Will that?
No. That will only. That is called a prescriptive lease. There is a concept called prescriptive lease.
That exactly was what Mr. NC Rajesh was alluding to.
That of course, that illusion I can understand, but the difficulty is that he is claiming independent right You can't have an independent right. It's only a prescriptive lease at the most. But the lease deed prohibits it. So he becomes a wrongdoer. Then wrongdoer must have an independent right to claim against the government, not a derivative right.
Now we have Advocate Rajendran KV. Please.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yeah, and doubt എന്താന്ന് വെച്ചാല് ഒരു ഗവൺമെന്റ് ലാൻഡ് അസൈൻ ചെയ്ത് കിട്ടി 30 ഇയേഴ്സിന് മുമ്പെയാണ് 30 വർഷം കഴിഞ്ഞു അസൈൻ ചെയ്ത് കിട്ടിയ ആള് മരിച്ചുപോയി അവർ ലീഗൽ ഹേസിന് കിട്ടി പ്രോപ്പർട്ടി അതിനുശേഷം ആ പ്രോപ്പർട്ടി ഫ്രാഗ്മെന്റ് ചെയ്ത് പലർക്കും സെയിൽ ചെയ്തു സെയിൽ ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞപ്പോൾ ലാസ്റ്റ് ഇപ്പൊ എന്താ വെച്ചാൽ വില്ലേജ് ഓഫീസർ പോക്കുവരവ് നടത്താൻ വേണ്ടി കൊടുത്തപ്പോ ഇപ്പൊ പോക്കുവരവ് നടത്തുന്നില്ല അതിലൊരു പോർഷൻ ഓഫ് ലാൻഡ് അത് കഴിഞ്ഞതിന് ശേഷം ബാക്കിയുള്ള ആൾക്കാരുടെയും നികുതി വാങ്ങുന്നില്ല കാരണം എന്ത് പറയുന്നത് വെച്ചാല് ഈ പ്രോപ്പർട്ടി അല്ല അസൈൻ ചെയ്ത് കിട്ടിയ പ്രോപ്പർട്ടി വേറെ പ്രോപ്പർട്ടിയാണ് ഇതല്ല പ്ലോട്ട് മാറിപ്പോയി എന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത് അതിനെന്ത് റെമഡിയാണ് സർ
ഐഡന്റിറ്റി
either suit for if this is your property, file a suit for declaration, title and fixation of boundary or something like that, or file a petition saying that the government stand is incorrect. അതിനകത്ത് വേറൊന്നും പറയാനില്ല, വേറൊന്നും പറയാൻ പറ്റില്ല. കാരണം
ഐഡന്റിറ്റി ഓഫ് പ്രോപ്പർട്ടി
അതാണ് വസ്തു മാറിപ്പോയാൽ പറയാൻ പറ്റില്ലല്ലോ.
വസ്തു മാറിയിട്ടില്ല, വസ്തു കുറെ ഇത്രയും വർഷങ്ങളായി അതിനകത്ത് വീട് കെട്ടി താമസിക്കുന്നു ആൾക്കാര്.
Problem there, you have to establish it. You can file a suit for declaration that this is the property, and you can take out the commission. You can even claim identification of the property, fixation of boundary, whatever it is. Ade cheyanullo inadu.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Indulekha has got a question. Indulekha, can you just come forward?
Hello, sir.
Please.
Sir, A sells a property to B under the bona fide belief that he has title over the property. But later it was turned out in survey that some part of property belongs to government. But in reality, the said property was in possession of A and his predecessors for more than 30 years. Could B claim adverse possession against government?
Absolutely. That is called the principle called tacking on. One wrongdoer can tack on possession of the other. Tack on possession of the other wrongdoer, provided the second person claims through the first person. That is called tacking on. You may please refer to Mitra on Limitation Act. You will get the principle as tacking on. This is perfectly claimable.
I think if Dilip is clear with that audio, we can.
Can I ask one question?
Hello, is it audible?
Yeah, please. Sina, 1 second. Dilip, can you please repeat that?
Audible? Okay. But good evening, sir.
Good evening.
My question is with regard to the same case which was asked by Lakshmi Menon regarding the Madhavati's case.
That of course we have clarified. We have clarified that.
Just I wanted a clarification as to when does the permissive occupation of the status of a permissive occupant of the lessee gets converted to that of an adverse.
And that depends on facts in each case. We can't say that. Suppose the lessee refuses to pay rent, and
there was nobody to receive the rent also. That is what
no. See that of course in that case the Supreme Court has, after elaborate consideration, found that there is a re-entry of the property with a hostile animus. We can't question that. Please read the entire decision. It's a question of fact depending on the facts in each case. We can't say a watertight compartment. You can say that a tenant, after entering into the tenanted premises, may say that you are not the landlord. He can say, suppose there is a covenant not to make a construction therein, he can make a construction. So any act against the terms, or even after expiry, he is not prepared to renew, he is not prepared to pay rent. These are all reasons. It depends on facts. Re-entry should be to the knowledge of the original grantor. That's all. It can be in any form. It is with a hostile assertion.
He should relinquish his original status.
Character. And assert ownership, which is inconsistent with the original assignment, with the original demise.
Should there not be any starting point to start a hostile animus?
That it depends. That is why, Mr. Dilip, I can't give you a definite answer to that question, because it depends. Even midway it can happen. Suppose there is a lease for 10 years. After 5 years, he says that no, you are not the owner, it is somebody else's property. If such a notice is sent, so suppose a suit is filed, that is a hostile assertion, is it not so?
Yes.
That is possible. It depends on the facts of each case. We can't say that.
I think 64 Supreme Court contains a decision where the adverse possessor should plead when his possession became adverse.
Right.
Sir, because of paucity of time, we'll take the last question. That is from Advocate Sina. Please, Sina, make it short and fast.
Sir, it's just my doubt only, sir. Good evening, sir. So my question is, on what ground or on what criteria the number of years is fixed as 12 years in the case of easement? I mean, the adverse possession, as well as 20 years in the case of easement, sir.
20 years in the case of easement.
And 12 years in the case of adverse possession, we'll have to wait now, sir. So on what criteria the numbers of years are fixed to 6?
Sina, probably I'll have to look into the legislative intent, because even in 1908 Act, it was 12 years. 1877 Act also, it was 12 years. Probably I have not looked into that aspect. This 12 years period was repeated in 3 enactments, the 1963, 1908 and 1877. In England, it is 20 years.
Yes.
But in the case of what you call prescriptive right under Section 15 of the Eastman's Act, it is 20 years.
Yes.
I don't know why, but if you ask me, I'll have to find out from the what you call the textbooks as to why this 12 years is fixed. Why speciality about 12 years? I can't give you a right now an answer, because nobody probably I also did not think in that line. Anyway, you prompted me to think that. We will find out. I'm not able to give you an answer right now.
Thank you for.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us. And I think all the questions, etc., could be reserved for coming time also, because a lot of us agreed to be with us in 2 more occasions on law of injunctions and Hindu law.
Yes.
So
very good. Fine.
I'll be happy to come, because after all, I also learned for this thing. It's all beneficial for me also.
Prem, so can we wind up for the day in the sense like sir has got some engagement?
Yeah,
Prem.
definitely.
Thank you.
Sir, it was really an erudite enlightenment for all of us.
Thank you. If I'm able to do something, that is good. I don't know whether I could
Definitely.
communicate.
It was a forensic treat.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So
due to want of time, you couldn't enter into other areas.
We understand. I appreciate that. In fact, earlier though there were only 5 hands. Now at least 20 hands have come up. If I am to start again, I think it will now be over.
Let them put it in writing.
Some other session, probably I'll answer that question.
Let them put it in writing so that you can give a written answer.
Oh, right. I can do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'd like to thank you for that.
Thank you very much. It's indeed our privilege to have you with us. And tomorrow we have Justice Subramanya Prasad, Judge of the Delhi High Court, dealing with the subject Supreme Court practice and procedure at 3:30. Till then, take care, stay safe. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.